Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals On The Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. The NFL Scouting Combine is here, which means we are full speed ahead with the offseason. And the offseason is just as exciting. There's just as much moves happening, if not sometimes more for Bengals fans, more moves, more exciting than the regular season because we've been disappointed for many years. But the offseason's the eternal hope and for every team. And that's where we're at the combine. We start talking to the GMs of throughout the league, the coaches, the coordinators, like, what do you need? What are you guys looking for? Do you want this type of player? Do you want that? Our beat reporting base does a good job of getting some good answers out of these guys. And I enjoy that every year that we do. But to me, the main course, why we're all here, not just to start kicking off, like talking about free agents, but for these guys, these prospects to solidify themselves and what we saw on tape and say, like, you know what, Sonny Styles, when we watched him, what did we say? Like, he's a top 12 prospect. He looks like a freak athlete. He's going to look big and fast and agile and all the things we're looking for and going to jump through the roof. And he did. He did all of that today. And that's kind of a conversation in itself. Like, does he now has to go top 9? I don't think that's the case. I think there's a chance he's still there at 10. I thought, and I said this, I think on his episode, if I remember correctly, that from people I've talked to, scouts have ridiculously high expectations and grades for Sonny Styles. So I think it was already a solid shot. He went top 10. I think, of course, testing and proving it helps convince these other teams that you could go second overall to the Jets, right? So I think it maybe increases his ceiling to like number 2 overall, but he's still not going to get past like 14. So if anything, it moved his ceiling up a little bit, but his floor is pretty strong. He's not going to go any further than that. But we got so far, as of today, recording this, by the time you see this Friday night, the second grouping and the defensive backs will be going. But as of recording, we got defensive tackles, defensive ends, and linebackers. Now, the D-end and linebacker class is loaded and strong. Defensive tackle, not so much. I want to talk about each group, though, and talk about a couple guys from each group, or maybe in the defensive tackle room, maybe just one guy that really stands out to me. We haven't done a film review yet on these guys, so that's why I mentioned Sonny Styles. He tested like we expected. Not much of a change for him. He's going to end up in the top 10 of our draft spreadsheet. The other one to mention here is that Ruben Bain did come in with sub 31-inch arms. And that was the fear. I think I may have mentioned Bain's arm length in the first 5 minutes of watching film because you can see it affect him once in a while, but it really didn't. But it was the fear. And the word on the street was that he's going to have ridiculously small arms. And we've never had a guy drafted in the first round with arms like that. We don't get guys like this at all, really, to be honest with you. When someone says there's never been a guy with double-digit sacks with this arm length, yeah, because there's never been that many guys like this. Going back in our database, we have 3 players. I saw someone else on NFL Network during the combine say they had 5 players in whatever, however far back they were going with it. And then the data gets fuzzy once you get past like 2010 to 2005. We don't have concrete data on everything. But so these guys typically don't even make it that far. They typically don't remain at defensive end up through college and then into the NFL. Normally they're like, hey, put another 15 pounds on you and put you at defensive tackle, or take 15 off you and play linebacker, because that's where you see that type of arm length. And that never happened with Bain. But with Bain, because of the arm length, it is going to affect some teams in how they view him. And he always had the best chance to be there at 10 out of the David Bailey, Ruben Bain type of conversation. And Arvo Reese, too, if you want to throw him in there. Out of those 3, Bain always had the best chance of being there. And it's because of the arm length, and some teams won't draft that. the Bengals, and I made a post about this on Twitter, so if you're a subscriber, you saw it. I went through the history of short arm guys that they've had on their team. It's tons. It's probably, you probably don't want to have that many short arm guys. And I also did a post on X, you should probably find that. This one's for everyone, about how they really have not valued agility, short shuttle, 3-cone. So you probably don't want, I said this too, if in a game of inches, the Bengals have a bunch of stiff T-Rexes over the last 15 years or so. Bain, it doesn't look stiff to me. He's definitely lower half heavy, so he could present some stiffness, but he's definitely a T-Rex. And I don't think it'll really scare the Bengals too much off of him. I think also what helps Bain is it doesn't impact him too often on tape. He's very good with his hands. He's flexible. He's explosive. He covers short area very quickly. And because he's good with his hands and creates really good natural leverage, a lot like Geno Atkins did, he gets these guys displaced often, the blockers. So they can't really control him because he's such a pain to block. He's a bit of a Tasmanian devil. And when you're like that, it reminds me of Carl Lawson. Lawson had really good technique, really good hand placement, and an array of moves. So he had short arms, and he generated a lot of power and lift. Same with Geno Atkins, right? These are short arm guys that had a lot of power. I think Ruben Bain is in that mold. Now, the other thing that helps Bain and why I keep bringing up Geno Atkins is because Bain is going to kick inside and play defensive tackle a bunch. And your arm length is less of an issue inside where we kick offensive linemen, tackles especially, that don't have the length. Where do we put them? We put them at guard. We put them at center. So you don't get as neutralized, right? That weakness that Bain has isn't such an issue when he goes inside. So to me at 9, I'm still in. He did not test and do everything. So we're still waiting on that. That could be even a bigger detriment to if he tests poorly, I'm saying. Because you need elite testing for pass rushers. It is a requirement. If you're going to find a good pass rusher, he needs to be an elite athlete. You cannot make that compromise at all. I'm more willing to make a compromise on a little bit of length because he's such a rare player. And it hasn't really affected him up until this point over being a bad athlete. And we didn't really get the guys who are bad athletes didn't test today. That's typically how it goes. You only get a few guys that are probably 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders that are hoping to get their name on the map that end up testing poorly at the combine. So anyone that tests today, they need to look good. And I've got a handful of guys here that I want to put some tape on and just let it roll while I talk about them a little bit. And all the tape today is courtesy of Bengals and Brews. Dale, who puts out a draft guide, is a great guy and puts in a ton of work. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. He's got his name at the bottom of most of these videos, I think. Bengals and Brews, they do a podcast. Good people. So I'm more than happy to show his work and work off of it ourselves as we're talking about a few of these guys. Because only one of them I've watched tape on. And I want to do a full episode. And the first one we'll do him first. Is Gracen Halton, the defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Tested really well today, other than the shuttle time. We'll go over that while his video plays here. I'm a big fan of Gracen Halton here. He's now graded as our highest defensive tackle in the class. So maybe I'm a little bit too high on him because of that. The data is really strong on him. While he is the beneficiary of a lot of stunts, he is an athletic, high energy, high motor pass rusher that also is solid against the run, has solid run data for a guy that's a little bit undersized. I think he was like 6'2", 293 at the combine. Actually, I have it right in front of me. Yeah, 6'2 and a half, 293. 31-inch arm, 77 wingspan. He ran a 4.82 today, which is really good. His vertical is a 36 and a half, which is great. His shuttle was not that good, a 4.79. Not a good sign. I'd like his agilities to be better. We'll see what his 3-cone is at his pro day and what he can bench and stuff like that. But I like Gracen Halton. Still think he's got a ton of upside as a true pass rusher. He doesn't get too many opportunities to do that while watching him at Oklahoma. But his PFF pass rush grade puts him in the 87th percentile as it stands right now. It had a pass rush win rate of about 11%, which is pretty good. Puts him in the 85th percentile. And his pass rush production puts him in the 95th percentile. So he has a lot of plays that he's made as a pass rusher. And while being also a quality run defender, I think he goes top 75, but I would not hate it if the Bengals took him at 51. And Halton's about the only guy that really stood out from the defensive tackle testing, except for Zane Durant from Penn State, which I'm saving for a full episode. Both these guys probably going to get a full episode, so maybe I should have spent some time talking about Zane Durant, but he's a very, very good player. Tested probably the best overall today. Someone that probably a lot of these guys are going to end up getting full episodes if the Bengals start showing interest in them, which we'll talk about that at the end of the episode here today. Who they've shown interest in so far, if you haven't seen it yet. The next guy up, though, Jacob Rodriguez at linebacker. You want a guy that had 4 interceptions and 7 forced fumbles. You want to take the ball away while also being an elite athlete. I mean, Sonny Styles tested like an elite athlete, but honestly, I was more impressed with Jacob Rodriguez because I thought he was a good athlete because I'm like, this guy's getting to the ball too often on tape to not be a good athlete. And then when you see him test, I was like, wow, okay. We're going to have to talk about Jacob Rodriguez because right now he's about 20th on our spreadsheet. And there's people saying 3rd, 4th round for him. I don't know. Let's cut it on real quick. Let's look at some tape. Yeah, just looking at it, Jacob Rodriguez is 80th on the consensus board right now. The only problem really is he's going to be a 24-year-old rookie. He spent 5 years in college, but whatever. At this point, we're talking about a 6'1", 233-pound linebacker. Not the biggest guy. Could be a little bit bigger, 31-inch arms. Could be a little bit bigger, but tested like a 94th percentile athlete. With his production profile puts him in the 90th percentile. Like PFF loved him, and they've been pretty stable with their metrics for this at linebacker. 97.9 percentile defensive grader for them, and they say he's good in coverage, he's good against run, he's a good tackler. I mean, when you watch this guy, the highlights are crazy because he's consistently going for the ball, punching the ball out, knocking the ball loose, jumping in front and intercepting it. You put on the Senior Bowl, he was knocking the ball out then. He got an interception to end of practice, day 1 or day 2. I can't remember which one it was, but this is a guy that says all the right things, seems like a leader, seems very smart because he's anticipating a lot of these throws, especially when he's getting his hands on the ball. Played with a lot of good guys around him, though. You know, we've got 2 defensive ends, Romello Height and David Bailey, plus Lee Hunter, who did not test well at all. He's definitely a nose tackle. But when you watch these plays, like look at some of these highlights here put together by Bengals and Brews. I want to make sure I shout them out again. It's pretty consistently him, Jacob Rodriguez, getting 2 plays early, getting to them quickly, especially like these 2 run plays there. He's getting to the hole and almost waiting for the running back. We're talking about like Demetrius Knight versus at pick, what was that last year? 55 versus Jacob Rodriguez at 41. To me, there's no comparison. This is a much better player. It's actually a year younger than Demetrius Knight was for the things we gave him flack about. Give me the guy who makes plays on the ball and consistently gets it back for his offense. Like, isn't that what you want for Joe Burrow in this offense? I wish we didn't take 2 linebackers last year because, man, this is such a strong class. The next guy I was very happy to see test well, it's TCU linebacker Caleb Elarms-Orr. This is going to be one of our biggest discrepancies between the draft sheet and the current consensus, and maybe he's going to go up now. He's 140th on the current consensus rankings. We're 5th, 6th round. What does that equate to? I think that's 6th round. He's going to be like 35th on our spreadsheet at this. Maybe the safeties and corners and everyone tests well too and pushes them back down to like 70th. No, I still think he's should go in the top 3 or 4 rounds here. Definitely 2 rounds earlier than where they had him. I'm going to cut some tape on here real quick and give you an idea while I talk about some of his data points that are really, really strong. And he tested as good as, so the top 3 are Sonny Styles, Elarms-Orr, and Jacob Rodriguez at linebacker testing today. Give me any of those guys, to be honest. Very similar size to Jacob Rodriguez. Elarms-Orr is 6'1" and 5/8, 233, 31 and some change arms, just under 32. 85th percentile for production, so you don't have to worry about that. 99th percentile for athleticism, that's great. And again, another guy that PFF absolutely likes in their stable metrics that have predictive value. So 81st percentile in defense overall. He gets his hands on the ball a lot, 85th percentile in forced incompletions. We've got in zone force incompletions, 81st percentile. His tackling grade puts him in the 86th percentile. His run defense grade puts him in the 79th percentile. And his missed tackles and run defense, 96th percentile. So he doesn't miss tackles a lot in run defense. He gets his hands on the ball in pass coverage. He's athletic. He's got a stocky, solid, strong build. And he's an elite athlete. If all of these teams are looking for these guys that can cover. Oh, he's had one penalty in his career also. But all these teams looking for these guys that can cover and do more and be versatile. And Elarms-Orr looks like that on tape. I'm interested, right? And maybe I do wonder. I wonder if you get to the point of, do you only take a linebacker if it's like Sonny Styles in round 1, or let's say Jacob Rodriguez in round 2? And there's a ton of other guys too. This is a crazy strong linebacker class. And then do you get to some point where it's like, you know what, Barrett Carter and Demetrius Snyder better than Elarms-Orr, so we're not going to take that pick. I tell you what, I do my own like fantasy draft. We call it a shadow draft during the draft. This is a guy that is going to be available in the 5th round, and I'm going to draft him because he's got all the data points you're looking for. In the film, you can find enough games where you're like, yeah, that guy looks good. He looks like he can play. And that's really what you're looking for on day 3. Give me the best chance of hitting on a guy that could potentially play a role for you. And Elarms-Orr looks like that. So he had a fantastic day. He put his name on the map. Again, he's 33rd on our board right now. He's 140th on the consensus. We are way above on him, which really intrigues me for our process because I like to see how these guys turn out. Sometimes, it works out. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's just how it goes. But it's still, I find it interesting, more of a scientific look at how this goes. I got one other guy here before we talk about some more Bengals stuff. I had defensive end that really shot up boards in a class where the other guy who's, it shouldn't be just Ruben Bain that was short arms and poor wingspan. Bain's wingspan was actually decent. The other guy to talk about is Kashius Howell, who I really liked on tape. Very short arms, another sub 31-inch arm guy. So we're gonna have 2 of them potentially go in the 1st round. Howell probably suffers a little bit more than Bain does because he doesn't play with the same exact power. Harder to hit though, he's more agile. But Howell's wingspan was like 3 inches shorter than Bain's. 3 inches is crazy. That's not who we're talking about. The guy who really vaulted himself up with a very good testing all over, is Denai Dennis-Sutton, Penn State defensive end. And I didn't know much about him. I've only saw clips up into the combine. He was on my list to watch. I watched a few minute videos from Bengals and Brews before recording this. And I'm like, yeah, I can see it. And I can see he's a great athlete. I'm not sure I love him yet. But now he pushed himself into that range of people are going to talk about him in round 2. Because again, like I started this, you want your you want your pass rushers, the guys you're going to draft, to be elite athletes. Whether that's 3-cone, short shuttle, the 10-yard split. The 40 is whatever. I'd like to see that burst and speed. That's a good thing. But the vertical, the broad jump, these are incredibly important. Defensive end is one of the most data-driven projections of all of the positions. Offensive tackle is really important. Defensive tackle is probably the most important. So you need these guys to test really well. The trenches, we think of big uglies. No, they are the most pound-for-pound athletic guys because what separates them is the elite guys and then everybody else that's just big. So the elite guys really separate themselves during these testing, and it makes it clear and easy to see which ones are good. I think it's why the Bengals struggle because they don't use all the data. Up until recently, it seems like they're using it again. But a guy like Denai Dennis-Sutton, when he tests like that, you have to be aware. You have to take it seriously. And whether you liked him or not, you got to go back to the tape and say, is this on there? Let's take a look at some tape right now. I went too far there. Let's take a look at some tape, and I'll give you some data points on Dennis-Sutton. So Denai Dennis-Sutton is 83rd on the consensus right now. I expect he'll be top 75 very quickly. He is one of the best data scores we have on our spreadsheet, and he came in at 6'5", 268, so that's solid size. That's right up the Bengals range, right? He's got 2 different arm lengths, but his left arm is, his left hand, is over 10 inches. His arm length is 33 and 6'8". Sometimes guys have one bigger hand than the other. That's what I was trying to say. Market share adjusted production, 93rd percentile. His athleticism today tested just under the 100th percentile mark, 99.6. That's pretty good. The only thing is his pass rush win rate is good. It's not amazing. 16.2% for his career. Last 2 years, 15.1. So a little bit worse as last year. Never had one great year. Bunch of solid years. Puts him in the 81st percentile, which is good. Don't get me wrong. It's just not amazing. And his true pass set situations, 22% win rate. That puts him in the 75th percentile. So you can see Denai Dennis-Sutton there winning on both sides, winning at defensive tackle. I mean, he's a guy you can move around a lot, and he's got good size, great athleticism now, and solid pass rush production. And I don't want to undersell it. It's not solid like Sam Hubbard solid. It's solid like Carl Lawson solid, to be honest with you, where you're like, hey, this could be a guy that collects 50 pressures in a season. So he's now in that grouping of guys that, for us, is going to end up with a first-round score. And anytime that happens at pass rush, you have to be aware of it. Like I said, I'm going to eventually do a full film review on him. I really am curious on his strengths and weaknesses. The cut-ups are great from Bengals and Brews, but they don't give me every single play. They're only the plays he's involved in. So sometimes, there's others that I kind of want to see, how does he track a ball down that's going away from him? How does he react when the play is not near him, but, he gets punched in the mouth by an offensive tackle? So there's still a lot to gain from the snap-to-snap film reviews that we do. And so I'd like to do one on all these guys. There are a few more that deserve shout-outs from the defensive line and linebacker workouts today. But we're moving straight forward with corners, safeties, working out Friday. Saturday, we'll move it over to the offensive side. I want to talk more about what the Bengals said and did and who they met with, especially when it pertains to the 10th pick here on our next segment. Every year we get to this point in the combine, and a lot of the daily reports are Bengals met with this player, or this player has met with the Bengals. You're going to meet with most of these guys, but it is interesting at the least to see where their mind frame is, for especially if they pick at like 15, 20, 25. Because who you expect to be there and who you're meeting with sometimes gives us a glimpse of where the teams think these guys are going to go, which kind of helps guide us a little bit. When you pick 10th like the Bengals do, I'm going to go over who they met with so far, just on the defensive line, linebacker, and secondary so far, because I mean that's mostly where our mindset is for that 10th pick, right? I'm just going to look at my references real quickly here, so bear with me. But Sonny Styles, Peter Woods, Caden McDonald's, Caleb Banks, Zane Durant, which is great, Xavier Harris, who I don't know yet, but that's Ole Miss defensive tackle. Haven't focused on him. Dante Corleone, nose tackle from Cincinnati. Ruben Bain, David Bailey, Keldrick Falk. So Denai Dennis-Sutton. So I said Zane Durant because we're going to do a full episode. Probably next week's episode will be the next guy we do. But Denai Dennis-Sutton tested really well today. Did they know that? Were they ahead of it? That's it for, I think, edges. But cornerback, Mansour Delane. Nose tackle, defensive tackle, Christian Miller, Georgia. Caleb Downs at safety. Joe Royer at tight end. Jermod McCoy at corner. Avion Terrell at corner. And Jalen Kilgore, who's kind of a corner safety. I think he's more of a safety when I watched him. I like Kilgore a lot. And that goes right off of what Al Golden said. If you listen to him talk, he said, I really, who wouldn't want one of those hybrid type safety corners that can come down and do all these different things? They call them force multipliers, which is a definition you can use for that. It's a guy who can do a lot of things that helps free up everyone else. But my point here is they have met with pretty much everyone. Now who's left? I guess Jeremiah Love, the two offensive linemen, CC Mawanoa and Spencer Fano. That's it. And they're going to meet with that at that point, other than Fernando Mendoza, everyone that's going to be on the table. Everyone that we're going to talk about. The only one I didn't mention there was Arvell Reese. We didn't get word on if they met him or not. We'll figure that out later. But as of now, we don't know. That's everyone, though, that realistically has a shot to be the pick at 10. And that's fun. I think it's clear. It's easy. There's no shocks there. pretty much all the guys we've talked about. We've done videos on everyone other than Avion Terrell. Of the guys expected to be the first. Like I said, we haven't done Denai Dennis-Sutton or Jalen Kilgore. I did that on Twitter. So yeah, that we're on the right track. That means we don't have too many guys. Avion Terrell is the only other guy maybe that we have to bring into the fold here and talk about for this pick. We haven't done Caleb Banks. We haven't done Caleb Banks yet. Now this is a guy that's 6'6", 325, and is a good athlete at that size. Interesting player because he's been hurt, doesn't have a lot of statistical production, so I'm going to spend a minute talking about him. The reason I haven't done a film review yet on Caleb Banks is because he's got a couple standout games. He only played a couple, 3 games maybe. This past year, he was hurt. You could tell. I don't want to watch any of those films. I've watched them, not worth showing you guys. It's not good. I want to go back to 2024, and there's like one game, I think it's LSU, that's way above. When I look at it, like 9 pressures, 2 sacks, like that's what I want to see what he can do, because there's a lot of games he doesn't do anything. He misses a lot of tackles. He's a bit of a wild card when you watch him. Can be very explosive for a big body guy and really control the line of scrimmage with how big he is. Flashes of Chris Jones of the Chiefs. And everyone would want that. But you're going to draft a guy that doesn't have consistent production or consistent tape, similar to Shamar Stewart. So that makes it tough. But I'm open to the idea because his flashes are so ridiculously dominant that how do you deny it? How do you deny saying that's kind of, we want superstar potential with that 10th pick? You end up in a scenario where all of your top guys are gone. I think Banks could be an option for the Bengals. And they overlook a couple things with each guy they take. Maybe it's the inconsistent tape and availability that wouldn't allow them to overlook what Caleb Banks doesn't have and look at his bright side, which is really high. I've given him and Peter Woods my 2 highest tape grades on defensive tackle. And Woods didn't do anything today, or this week, by the way, for the combine. Banks did most, not all of it yet. Tested solid for a big guy, definitely. Good for a big guy, I should say. And he's the only other guy that we would have to do a film review on at 10. I want to find that LSU game. If I can't, I'll probably watch it on Twitter and do it that way so they don't take it down on here. We're going to have to figure that out and see how we can get to Caleb Banks. Maybe the people that I use for the film will grant me some extra games here that I don't have right now. But I wanted to give you guys a few guys here from just this group of players and give some more hope that this draft, every year we do this, where it's like, not a great draft class. And then some guys present themselves and they test really well, and now they're looked at in a different light. And I think all these guys qualify as doing that today. So I would like to do this again. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments where we can quickly recap some of these combine performances. And they still matter. I'm getting that in comments too. I can read your comments already. But no, on Twitter, I'm getting these comments of people. Shamar Stewart, case in point, the athleticism test, the combine doesn't matter. It's not true. Get over it. The combine matters. The testing matters. All of your favorite athletes are good athletes. And it's not a bad thing to be a good athlete. You just want the production and the tape to match as well. And that's why we turn it on here. So if you like this kind of layout, get us through the combine recap season. We can do defensive backs next because I think they're going to take a slot corner at some point, and we're definitely going to take a safety. So why not do that for the next episode on Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. And until next time, until then, Huda.